I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, it's 5 on a horse, I'm ready for war, I'm coming for throats, to turn to a ghost, I need to know everything. Now you be surprised at the info you get is by letting them talk, so I'm letting them talk. Gotta keep quiet, maneuver in silence to let them in, chalk up their body, another one body, that's just how it go. I got some secrets, I'm shaking the game so they stay on their toes. Stay in your lane, how to stay on the go. I came to play with the pros and act like a rookie, so they overlook me, then I double up again, none of their knows. None of them cold, they just got lucky but never adapted, so I'm to the one if it's coming to blows. My enemies cutting it close, I let them think that they got me, but what do you know? I had them beat before we ever spoke, I'm ready for smoke. I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me.
Hello. How's it going, Nikhil?
Good. That was
All right. Yes. Do you hear me okay? Your volume sounds a little low there.
Does it? My volume sounds low?
Yeah, but I can hear you. I just want to make sure the folks out in the audience can hear you.
Is that any better? Or?
Yes. That sounds fine. Yeah. So glad to have you here. And before we have you introduce yourself, I'm gonna talk a little bit about Startup on the Blocks and share that with you and also the audience so they can get a feel for what's going on. Yeah. And welcome everybody on all those different social media channels. We're glad to have you here for our weekly best practice event, and also we do some networking. So tonight, this is our 80th event since August 2013, August 13th, 2020. Yeah, so we're excited about just keeping the ball rolling here. So tonight we got Nikhil Gupta, and just met him a little over a month ago, and we've been having a lot of conversations since then, and so I'm pretty excited about that. But it shows our ecosystem, how when you participate in it, you get to make connections. So, Nikhil, are you familiar with any of these sponsors we have here?
Yes, Gulf Power. I just went to the Gulf Power conference. That was a great time. A lot of the community members were here. SBDC. I'm actually, I've met a lot of the team. Brooke, Dorian, Aisha, etc. Pensacola Chamber. I'm not familiar with the other ones, but look forward to engaging more.
Yeah, so the Pensacola Chamber is part of the ecosystem here. A lot of people, maybe not think traditional chambers or part of the startup ecosystem, but yeah, they offer a lot of things for members, and a local chamber. They actually have some freebies. Once you sign up, they have some support that they give you right off the bat. You can schedule some time to get some consulting on social media and other areas like that. So it's pretty neat also. The Minority Chamber, I don't know if you met Brian last night, Tuesday night. He was at the Startup Social. Yeah, you might have met him. So he leads that, and they're okay. Yeah, and Innisfree Hotels, they've been sponsoring our pitch competitions, and we really appreciate their support, as well as the first. They also been sponsoring our pitch competitions as well. And Gulf Power sponsors. They're one of our founding sponsors for the nonprofit, and also they're the title sponsor for a Lean Stack program as well. Yeah, so that's yeah, we're definitely fortunate to have the corporate supporters, here in our ecosystem. So, did you kind of get an idea about Startup on the Blocks? And so, kind of, how would you describe Startup on the Blocks?
Put me on the spot. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we met about a month ago. This is quite interesting. This platform, I've never really used Hopin before, but I realized actually that someone reached out to me about this platform maybe a month or two ago, a sales agent. But yeah, I think Startups on the Blocks. I think the way I heard you discuss it the other day is you're trying to sort of tap into a lot of these ecosystems that we as entrepreneurs all try to find out about and get access to. And the thing is, there's a lot of things out there for pitch competitions, for funding, for grants, etc. A lot of this ends up becoming word of mouth. I mean, some agencies have done a better, or worse job of kind of compiling a lot of this. But I get the sense, and I actually like your weekly email that you send of like all the things that should be on everyone's radar. That's been super useful, and I haven't found much other things out there. Not just about Pensacola or other areas, but just the communities in throughout the country. It's hard to really compile all the different events and such. So yeah, what you're doing with Startups on the Blocks, bringing the communities together, getting people to find out about the different resources out there. That's super useful. So, to my sense, that's what you're trying to compile a lot of different things together.
Yeah, and so that's there are a lot of resources out there, and so but kind of what the challenge is those applications to take advantage of some of those resources, especially pitch competitions, accelerator programs. They require you to have certain knowledge. They ask you certain questions, and you need to know how to answer the questions. So with Startup on the Blocks, we the training part of what we do is to try to teach you the best practices, so you'll know how to answer those questions when they appear on those applications, and to also to learn how to pitch your idea clearly and concisely. And what's unique about us is we actually we don't care where you are in your founder's journey. We don't even care if you haven't even started it. We just want you to learn about it, and then learn all the resources that are out there, but also learn the best practices for building a startup. And I think that's kind of the key thing there. And so we also on that Thursday night we do the networking just before this. We come on stage here, so you participate in the networking a couple of times. Why don't you share what your experiences has been?
Yeah, as I mentioned, this interface is really unique. I've never used anything like this before. Um, yeah, so basically, I think we all log into this interface, and then you can chat with people. But even better than that, it sort of randomly links up to people that have joined the networking interface. And this way, you can have this sort of virtual networking with people that are in different parts of the state or the nation or the country.
Yeah.
And then you can have that discussion, and if you want, you can exchange contact information. You can learn more about what others are doing in the community, that you can share with them what you're doing. So it's quite useful.
Yeah. So have you made any good connections or benefit from any of the connections you made so far?
Yeah, definitely. I met Marcel the other day. He had some electronic equipment. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go help him out, pick it up, but it was great meeting him. And I've met a lot of other individuals. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think the basic idea of Startup on the Blocks, is to help you make these connections, um, and connections always lead to other connections, of course, uh, and also to the this idea. I think. you, it's so many resources out there, and there's so many opportunities for funding, and a lot of times they're not advertised. But like when you can pitch your idea clearly and concisely, you can actually have a better chance of you know winning some of those opportunities and getting funding, getting co-founders, getting help. And it's all about being able to get people excited about your idea. And so we have the tools that you can use to design your business model and just learn about what the startup world is all about and how to prosper in it. So yeah, I think that's probably enough said about that. To make things simple for people, because we can't help everybody, but we can provide information that can be helpful to people. So the startup on the block founders playbook, we didn't invent any of this stuff, so I kind of looked at this idea, what I've learned from all the different programs I participated in. Mindset was a big factor, and so you got to get the mindset right, and then you have to know, you learn, and it's a journey, so you don't know everything at once, but you learn as you go. And that lean startup methodology and this lean stack, Ash put together an excellent training program and with some playbooks and tools that founders can use to kind of help grow their startup. But the authority, I would say, on all this founder stuff is the Y Combinator with the startup school. And yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I've done startup school. It was quite useful, and when I did it, I think it was the first year they launched it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good because you got partnered in a group with other startups. And at least when I did it, they sort of like grouped you by like the type of company you are, like I don't know, like SaaS companies, or
Yes.
I think the group I was in was like moonshot technology, like hard technology startups.
Okay.
And so that one was interesting in that you have a mentor, and so every week the mentor was like a former YC alum, and they sort of like guide you through the process. I think it's a little different now, but
Yeah. Yeah.
still what they have is great. They have the slides and the presentations and sort of the write-ups of a lot of the collected knowledge of Y Combinator over the years.
Yeah. I think that Y Combinator library is unbelievable. Almost any question you have about being a founder or along your startup journey, that library, they have stuff in there from way back in 2005, 2006. So they've actually been at it quite a while.
Yeah. We made our we're somewhat early in the startup phase. We made our first sale for our product about a month and a half ago. And prior to that, when I was trying to figure out, I was like, it's the first product. How do I
Mm-hmm.
price this? And so I talked to my network, but I also spent a lot of time reading startup schools things on pricing and watching their
Yeah.
videos on pricing. So that definitely gave me, some insights on how to think about it.
Yeah. And so the next down there is that f6s.com. That is a tremendous resource for founders. And yeah, and so to me, I sometimes give the analogy in the startup world. It's your how well you're known in the ecosystem is kind of like your credit, as opposed to in traditional small business. If you need to find money or loans to fund your business, you have to have the credit and all that. But in the f6s.com world, for all the benefits for being in there, and they have over 4 million founders on there. It's like you build up your profile, both your personal and your business profile, and that's kind of like your credit, because people are aware of you and what you're doing based on your profile. And then based on that, then you got companies like Amazon, Google, and other. There's like so many companies, like it's couple $1 million worth of freebies on there, and so you can leverage these tools to kind of help you, defer some of the costs that to build stuff or to host stuff on in the cloud, or to some marketing tools or some discount things. It's just a fabulous resource, and I tell people, there's so many things out there, and you need to people need to be aware of these accelerators, these pitch competitions. They need to be aware of you in order for you to become a known factor in the ecosystem, and that plays a big role in your success.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yes, yes. And so yeah, we do, and I say I attend weekly networking and learning events, and so that uh, it's pretty interesting. Who you might run into, who you might meet. But what we try to do, we, in addition to having founders on, we have experts on that actually share knowledge, and so we've got a lot of accumulated knowledge from 80 events now. So the key thing, if you do a lot of the stuff we suggest, then you can leverage the ecosystem, to kind of help your startup grow. So let's see. Yeah, I can't say enough about Ash and the Lean Stack. Yeah, he's mentoring us and what we're doing, and we're sharing whatever we learn from him with here, and also our portfolio companies. Yeah. Yes, and so we got you on tonight, but next week we have Erica, and she's pretty amazing. She's the CEO of these three-day startups, and so I think that's going to be a great conversation as well. And she's also bringing her vice president of programs on, Chandel. So that should be a pretty good thing to tune into next week. And they did something unique. Their program, they actually took what's the accelerator program out of Austin there? Trying to think, I can't even. But yeah, it's one of the leading top 5 programs. And they actually took all that training material and they mapped it to skills that a person needs, and then they're using the local workforce boards to actually pay for that training. So as an entrepreneur, you can get pay. They can fund people learning the best practices of building a startup. So I thought that was pretty neat. And so later on, toward the end of the month, we got Lico and Brianna coming on. They're from the Pensacola Chamber. And I don't know if you're aware, when you join the Pensacola Chamber, the reason why I asked these two people to come on, they do the, Brianna, she does the email marketing, and Lico, he generates a lot of the content for the chamber. And so they've been really successful in with the social media for the chamber. So I thought I would get them to come on and share some of their strategies and approaches for engagement with customers. And so, so that should be a great event as well. Okay, we have mentors, and we're still recruiting more mentors, and the idea there is like they all have different types of expertise. So we got some founders in there. We got some Pat is a CPA accountant type. We've got some consultants in there. Bob Foster, he's like the kind of number one business development guy you ever want to meet. So he is the man. And I think when I met Bob Foster, he had about 5 years or more ago, he had 6,000 LinkedIn connections, and I'm not sure where he is now. It's probably, I know the last time I checked, he had over 14,000, so I'm not sure where he is. So you definitely want, if you need some help with some business development, and Marcia does marketing and Rodney Jackson is a banker, and Tay Larry, he's a consultant with the the Small Business Development Center. So, and John and Jessica, they're in the ed tech, and they've been working with folks. And Purcell, he's a true entrepreneur. He's been a really successful entrepreneur. And Pete Nowak, he's a local. I think he has the most McDonald chains here in the area. He's got about 6 of them. So yeah, these are all people that can actually help you, with your startup. And so I think that's a pretty neat resource to have. All right. So I like this startup social chart because that's where we met, right? Yeah, at the startup social last month. So that shows the benefit of networking, right?
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, and what I so people don't get confused about the startup social. So that the way that got started was, the co-working spaces and the other ecosystem folks, they got together and say, well, we need to have these events so people can become aware of some of the resources that are in our local ecosystem, and so yeah, we were excited and pleased with the event we hosted this week at the Kukua Institute, and I'll upload some video, maybe tomorrow, so people can kind of get a feel for that. It was a really really great event. So, what did you think about the Startup Social? You were there.
Yeah, no, it was good. Yeah, I think the first one I went was at the Super Institute, and I think it's a good program because yeah, Colab, Kakua, Jetty, and the Studer Institute seem to be the main sort of startup hubs within the community, and it's actually quite amazing. Actually, given the size of the population here, I think we have a really emerging and vibrant startup community and small business community. So I think it's really good to get everyone together, and yeah, the idea of rotating makes sense because this way, every perspective and sort of every stakeholder can be involved, and then you get different segments. Someone might be involved with Kukua versus involved with Jetty, and then this way, by rotating, we can sort of mix all the communities together. Because often what ends up happening in all these communities is they get siloed.
Yes.
This way, we can sort of mix everything. Yeah, so it's a credit to all of you who have created this social.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. I hope there's some veterans listening out there because the Spring JDLT, they both have free office space for veterans. And so no veterans that's taken them up on it yet. So that's amazing to me.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then you have to. I mean, I've been to the Spring. The Spring is it's definitely got some high quality interiors. It's a good
Yeah.
space. The Jetty, I'm looking forward to checking out pretty soon as well.
Oh yeah, the jetty is huge, and they got the maker space in there, so that's
Mhm.
kind of what neat. But the other thing that's neat about that, the Tom that runs that owns that, he's an investor too, so that's another reason to hang out over there, if you're looking for some funding. Yeah, yeah, you have to know where the money is around here. Yeah, I think the that was kind of the introduction to Startup on the Box. But I think the main thing we wanted to make our ecosystem inclusive, but we wanted all the problems that founders have. We want to figure out, get some funded programs to help solve those problems. And but you have to know what the problems are, and being involved with this Startup on the Blocks, and actually the local ecosystem throughout Northwest Florida. I've been participating in it for since like 2014, and
Mm.
so it's kind of, you have to kind of get to know the players in the ecosystem and what services and stuff they offer. If you want to kind of take advantage of them, and it like you going down to Miami to the Merge Americas thing.
Mhm.
And just to give you an example, Enterprise Florida, how I found out about it, they they gave me a couple of tickets to go down to Emerging America. So
Yeah.
that's you see what I'm saying. So you have to and as a result of that I was able to go down there a couple. With the following year I went down there, I was able to pitch and everything. So
Yeah.
that's pretty neat. So I'm excited about you going to take a trip down there.
No, it should be good. So Emerge is the first 2 days, and I got I was able to get a complimentary ticket for that. And then the final day, I think, is on the keynote day. Let's say is on Friday, and that one looks quite good. And there's some interesting VC firms out there, and of course other startups that are doing interesting things. So I'm actually trying to figure out my schedule right now. Like, where am I going
Oh
to
yeah,
go?
we were talking about that a little earlier, but I can tell you the times I've been down there in that ecosystem, it's really huge, and there are a
Yeah,
lot of things going on. The county participates in the ecosystem, the city participates in it, the university. I mean, unbelievable. You'll see at Emerging Americas, the whole majority of the ecosystem will be there, and
yeah.
and so that's a pretty neat thing. I guess I'm gonna keep talking about it so much. I'm gonna want to go.
You should, Lloyd. What's really cool is I mean, I'm very optimistic about Florida, and so I think the startup ecosystem is growing throughout the state, and what's really cool about this is I was back in Connecticut still last year, and my buddy, he's also a clean tech entrepreneur. He's in the battery space, and he was just messaging me like crazy about this last year, and it just sort of just emerged this Miami Tech Week last year, like off of Twitter. People were messaging each other, and then now it's become a thing. And then Miami has theirs. There's no reason we can't have ours eventually in Pensacola. And
Oh
then
yeah, and I'm glad you're thinking that way because the people, the organizations that do economic development, um, they I don't think they realize that you can actually do a showcase for startups
yeah, yeah,
and so I think what I like me when I suggest things to like that to people here, but ultimately a lot of times you have to do them yourself. you know you have to just go ahead and do it. But yeah, that's how I actually I say that, but it's we need to do more stuff, and I think I I 10 Wired, I think it's all about entrepreneurship and technology. So I think it'll go there. But before we go any further, why don't you can just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your startup, and then we can dig a little deeper after that.
yeah. So again, my name is Nikhil Gupta. I'm the founder and CEO of Determinate Materials. And what we do is we recycle electronics and we produce precious metals, which we sell to the jewelry industry to make a branded jewelry product. So what we're doing is we're tackling the two problems that we see as issues here with electronic waste, end of life electronics, which is the fastest growing waste stream in the world. That's one problem we're solving. The other problem is sort of materials production, ethical materials production, secure, stable, supply chains of materials. Right now we're focusing on precious metals, but eventually we'll focus on metals like copper, steel, aluminum. Eventually a lot of people have heard about rare earth elements, lithium, cobalt, that sort of thing. So we are basically providing a local and secure source of critical materials that are needed. Our target market at the moment is ethical jewelers. So these are jewelers who care a lot about the origin and nature of the metals that they use in their jewelry. They want to be able to say, look, this wedding ring came from this batch of electronics, recycled at this facility in a clean way.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So we have a patent pending technology that we call the micro refinery, and it's a fully clean mechanical process. And we envision having, so I moved the business. We can maybe talk about this later, but I moved
Yeah.
the business from Connecticut to the Pensacola. So that's our headquarters, and we're building the first micro refinery, the first factory here in Pensacola. And then eventually, we plan to branch out throughout the state and the nation and possibly the world.
Okay. Wow. Wow. That sounds pretty exciting. So you're touching a lot of different things there. So how did your because I understand you're a chemical engineer. How did your, in high school or something, why did you decide to become an engineer?
It's a really long story, but look, I'll try to simplify it. Yeah, I think at a really young age, I kind of realized I was into science and technology. I remember my mom. I think I was like 5, maybe. My mom
Hmm.
bought a book from one of my friends. It was called Pocket Science. I still have the book actually.
Wow. Okay.
It's one of my prized possessions, let's say. So it was a science and technology book. It was written by some engineer. So she bought it for my friend. I started reading it, and then I was like, "Oh, it was his birthday." I was like, "Oh, mom, like I really like this book." She's like, "Oh, don't worry, you keep it. I'll go buy something for him." So just as a young age, I really got into this sort of thing. I got into the clean tech resources space when I was summer after freshman year of high school. I was 14 years old. I went to India where I had some
Okay.
family there, and I just you know I saw sort of the resource insecurity that they have there, the energy insecurity.
Okay.
So basically electricity would go out all the time
Oh my goodness.
during sweltering, hot, like 110 plus degrees with high humidity that makes the panhandle look like a joke. And so you would see the issues with the energy insecurity, but at the same time there was a lot of pollution there. So I just was, to me it was like, look, we need some sort of more robust solution that we don't compromise the environment, but at the same time we have energy security that people can live a better lifestyle. So
Okay.
that's how
Okay.
I got into that. As I realized I kind of wanted to be a clean tech entrepreneur. Senior year, as I was writing the college applications, and I realized that as I did some research, it seemed to me that chemical engineering was probably the thing that would give me the best chance of helping to solve this energy resources environment sustainability challenge.
Okay.
So yeah, so I studied. I went to a school in Boston called Olin College of Engineering. It
Okay.
was specifically focused on engineering and design and entrepreneurship, and kind of how do you design a solution, engineer it, and create a solution and get it out into the world through business and entrepreneurship.
So you said there's a college that specifically takes you through that process. That sounds pretty unique.
That's the idea. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get some kudos from the school for free marketing. But yeah, so it's called.
Yeah.
I'm
But I
actually
think I think people need to hear about these institutions that are focused like that. I think it's really important. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be on a panel, I think in May.
Hmm.
So in May next month, for a clean tech panel. But it's called the Franklin W. Olin College of Engineering,
Okay.
based in Needham, Massachusetts. So that's
Okay.
right outside of Boston. So when I was in college, I was really involved in the Boston startup ecosystem.
Okay.
Centered around like Boston, Cambridge, MIT, Harvard, and Babson College was next door. There's a lot of entrepreneurs who would go there. But yeah, the school was really big. The founding precepts were really circled around like, okay, how do we educate engineers that can really make a big difference in society, that are leading to the outcomes that we want to make positive societal change. Again,
Hmm.
it was based on like design, like what is this design that would for society, for a product or for a process or something that would really provide positive change and that people would actually want to use. Then how do you engineer that? How do you actually create the technical product or process? And then that's not enough. I mean, that's often where like a lot of the engineering and design people would stop. The next step is you have to use entrepreneurship and business to get it out into the world, because it has to be sustainable in the sense of financially. You have to be able to create the product that people are willing to pay for and that it's economical, and that way you can get the scale. So that's sort of a lot of that thinking sort of shaped my thinking as I was thinking about this business and what I wanted to do in the future.
Yeah. I think that says an awful lot. Because most public colleges, a lot of them, they don't teach you how what you're learning fits in the whole scheme of things. So I think that's some excellent. I'm really glad you shared that, and so hopefully that'll help some people in the audience. So what did you do once you finished college?
Yeah. Well, I'll say that. So I want to do something, and I want to be a clean tech entrepreneur, and I also want to gain more experience, because I felt
Yeah.
like, unlike like software or some of these other fields, it's kind of hard to get deep expertise and understanding of chemical engineering and of the sort of the resources and energy environment space. like, from a younger age without having worked in the industries and stuff. So we can come back to this, but basically I had the inkling of the interest of this electronics recycling right before I was graduating. What I
Okay.
chose to do is I chose to go work for Shell, Royal Dutch
Okay.
Shell, the energy. So I had done a couple of internships with them in the past, but I decided to hire on full time, and I went and worked just not even 3 hours away from here, west in New Orleans.
Oh,
So
wow.
I worked at their Norco oil refinery,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a good role for a couple of years. And I learned a lot about chemical engineering, about manufacturing, about the resources industry, supply chains. It was honestly a great experience, and I credit a lot to a lot of my sort of whatever success I've had and the learnings I've had. The technology is called the micro refinery that I invented. And it's based a lot on sort of like how I saw the oil refinery over there. It's a giant piece of equipment, billions of dollars of capital. I wanted to figure out how do I scale something down so it's efficient and sort of fixes and sort of solves a lot of the issues I saw with like the giant systems like an oil refinery.
Okay. So, like, with your startup, so um, you are you is I'm trying to think. Have you totally materialized the refinery, or are you still doing some stuff in a manual way? And then, but once you get the factory up and running, everything will be a lot more automated.
Yeah, so I've done the processing in a small scale. As I think I mentioned earlier, we've produced product and we've sold it to our ethical jewelry customers.
Okay.
And yeah, we're basically looking to build the factory here, and so there's a couple of steps. You find the industrial space, you retrofit the industrial space with some modifications so you can operate, and then we would order the equipment and sort of set everything up and hire people in manufacturing jobs to run the factory.
Gotcha. So yeah, so that's and so you you worked for Shell for a couple of years. So when did you actually launch your startup?
So
I
basically,
started working on it. I guess I won't say launch. When did you kind of start pulling everything together?
yeah. So let's back up then. So I did go work full time for Shell, but basically like right before I graduated, my senior year of college, I was auditing an MBA class. So I was a semester long. And it's funny because now we're talking so much about supply chains and insecurity and sort of the trade-off between efficiency and actually having secure supplies of things. But
Hmm.
I've been basically thinking about this stuff for more than a decade. So
Gotcha.
that class, it was an MBA class, it was a supply chain class. But one day the professor kind of whips out his cell phone and he says, "Hey, did you know that there is precious metals inside this? There's gold inside this cell phone." To me, that
Hmm.
was shocking. One good thing about Olin also is we got to cross train, cross learn different disciplines. So I did
Gotcha.
a circuits class like an electrical engineer,
Yeah.
um, and so I knew there was copper in there, I knew there was tin, but I had no idea that there was gold, silver, platinum, palladium, that sort of thing. So kind of as I first heard that, I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I was looking for all those 4 years for something that I thought would be impactful, that would sort of make sense in the clean tech space.
Hmm.
And I just, as I kept learning about it, I just thought, that, wow, this is kind of amazing. I could make a big impact here. The concentration of valuable materials inside electronics is far more concentrated than what it is in mineral ores when you mine material, whether it's copper,
Okay.
etc. And then the fact that electronic waste is the fastest growing waste stream in the world, and there wasn't really any good solutions. There still aren't any good solutions out there. Um, I think we can be the good solution, but the existing stuff is not really a robust solution. A lot of it gets landfilled, incinerated,
Yeah.
gets shipped abroad, and either sometimes dumped in developing countries and such. But there's a lot
Yeah.
of sort of negative social and environmental impacts.
Yeah. So, what made you decide to focus on the jewelry industry first as the lowest hanging fruit?
Yeah. So it's such a big challenge in terms of recycling, and then in terms of global materials. I mean, these are massive markets. So it sort of was a lot of sort of going back and forth, thinking through how do I attack the market. So the technology is a platform technology. It's very broad based and encompassing in the sense that it can go after a lot of the materials. So
Mm-hmm.
at times I was thinking about plastics because the plastic challenge, plastic to fuels, plastic to chemicals to recycle the plastics. I was thinking about cobalt and lithium with all the issues that are present there. I was thinking at one point about rare earth elements, but ultimately, a big impact is, I mean, he's a bit of a divisive figure. So, but I'm a big fan of Peter Thiel and
Mm-hmm.
his books 0 to 1, and sort of his philosophy of Founders Fund and that kind of thing, tackling big problems. But one thing he says in there, and actually, Startup School has one of his lectures in the library system.
Okay.
So one thing he says is that you really, startups always have limited resources, and you've got to kind of start small and then eventually grow big. But
Mm-hmm.
because you have limited resources, you want to sort of almost monopolize, in effect, or dominate a certain target market. And the
Okay.
only way to do that is starting really small. One of the issues, I've been following, like I said, the Boston ecosystem. I was part of the startup ecosystem a couple of years back, and
Mm-hmm.
I would say in some sense that was almost sort of like one of the hard tech or clean tech hubs, even more than SF. I mean, maybe it's changed now, but one of the things that has sort of a lot of the manufacturing startups and a lot of the resource startups is this issue of, what I'm talking about, the fact that they try to attack a giant market. Like they say, hey, we're an energy company and we're just going to sell into the energy industry, and we're just going to sell for sort of, the base prices of, dictate by the price of oil or the price of natural gas, right? That this sort of 0 to 1 philosophy is about, you got to have a really specific target market that you can serve, that the customer base are just itching for your product. So I just found that this sort of like ethical resources, it has implications with defense industry, secure supplies, with electronics. Apple wants to have fully recycled metals by such and such date. But I found that these jewelry industry cares the most about it. They
Wow.
really care about ethical sources. And then if you can target the specific small jewelers, so that's kind of what I'm going with, this ethical jewelers that are small, that are niche, small businesses, they're willing to almost bend over backwards to get supply.
Okay.
So that's why I said, I decided to target gold, and then also to target specifically, ethical jewelers. The other thing is, like, if you look at something like cobalt, for example, or nickel, you can't just really produce the metal. It's a chemical. You're producing a designer molecule, actually, that you're trying to drop in somewhere in Ford or Tesla's supply chain upstream, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, gold is a bit, in some sense, simpler. That, you're gonna have the pure element, or the pure element alloyed with other, silver or copper, other pure elements. So there's technical reasons and there's sort of market reasons, and that's kind of the reason we decided to go for gold specifically now, and then with the target market being these ethical jewelers.
Yeah. So I think I think the takeaway from what you just said is like when you look at the lean canvas and you're looking at your customer thing, and then so your lowest hanging fruit is your early adopters is the jewelers, I guess, and that's something that's pretty targeted. So like if you um, get a good start in that and a good foundation in that, then you know it's to me that's you're definitely on your way to a good start there.
Yeah, and speaking of the canvas, actually, that's a good point. I should give credit to another organization. So I when I was still in Connecticut, I participated in this organization called Accelerate Yukon. So it was for University of Connecticut, and it was basically a division of NSF I-Corps, so
Okay.
National,
Yeah.
has this I-Corps program that they found that, like, technologists will come up with technologies, and they'll say they'll create businesses. A lot of these businesses fail because they don't understand the business side, and specifically they don't really understand their market and stuff. So going into that program, I had an inkling that this jewelry sector was probably the best sector, and going for the
Mm-hmm.
as the product and sort of our gold formulation is probably the right way to go. But
Mm-hmm.
that program really helped me a lot. I did I think I probably did 100 customer interviews
Oh,
throughout
wow.
that program. Yeah, and they gave you some funding to to travel. So I went to the Responsible Jewelry Conference in Chicago, and that's what really tapped me into this community. That was 2 years ago, I think, right before the pandemic in 19.
Uh-huh.
And so
Yeah.
that's how you understand your industry that you're serving, and learn about that market. So it's been an interesting journey.
Yeah. So how did you find out about that I-Core thing?
Um, it was actually someone in SBDC,
Okay.
in Connecticut SBDC, that sent me that.
Okay.
Typically, SBDC agencies work with the universities. So in
Okay.
Connecticut, it's UConn, and then Florida, it's got to be a whole bunch of organizations, but the one in our area is University of Western Florida, UWF.
Westport, yeah. Mm-hmm.
West Florida, sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, that I think the takeaway from what we were just talking about is you one program you learned something that made a really big difference in your startup journey. So at what stage of your startup were you? So when you applied for that, what was that application process like for getting into that I-Core program?
So there's the National I-Corps program, which I think I've heard is more intensive, and to go through, which also probably means that it's more competitive and has a tougher
Yeah.
competition. I thought when I went through the first the UConn program, I didn't even know of the national program, but by the time I went through the UConn program, I was like, okay, this is good, and I think I've learned what I want to get out of this.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm asking is for that UConn program, what was the application process like? How far along you had to be with your company, or did you have to have the company started? That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember all the details. I think that they were. I was somewhat. I think I was a bit farther along than you had to be even. Some of them were just ideas, they were.
Okay.
It was almost like a tech transfer, because it's companies that are. A lot of them were companies where technology had just come out of the lab somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it was like, hey, look, let's pass them along to this program, see if they can make a business out of it. So some of them were not even ideas, I guess. They were just
Yeah.
hey, technology, and then can we find a business case for this?
Yeah, and that's the point I'm trying to make is in the startup ecosystem, you don't some of these resources you don't even have to have started a company. You just be at the idea stage, and I think it's kind of hard to imagine for some people that you have resources out there. You just have an idea, and somebody's going to help you with that idea. But that's the neat thing about the startup ecosystem. There's so many different resources, and for our area here, they've had some I-Core things, but they're typically ran out of Atlanta, but they cover our area, and then there's been some that cover Alabama and all up to Delta to all the way to Arkansas or somewhere. But yeah, and so these programs exist, but if you don't ever start looking at stuff or start your journey, you have an idea, but I don't know, people must think they have to have a company before they can get involved in some of this stuff. There's a lot of stuff you don't even have to have your company form. And we had a young lady on a few weeks ago. She had an idea for an invention, and she found an organization that did all her patent work for her, and then she found another organization that gave her a fellowship, 10 grand to actually materialize her idea. So it's pretty amazing the resources. But once you get started, everything just starts building upon itself, and I think that's what's good so far about your journey and moving forward. So you've been involved in the UConn ecosystem, so in Connecticut. So how does that ecosystem compare to the ecosystem in Boston or here in Pensacola?
Yeah, I mean, Boston is really, I mean, there's no comparison. The other comparisons would be New York City and San Francisco. And in fact, when I was in the Boston ecosystem in college, New York wasn't even big. I mean, this Austin, Denver, none of this stuff existed. It was just SF
Yeah.
and so that is obviously huge. And we talked about this the other night. I think one thing is it really helped to have that university cluster for startups and businesses and employers and that sort of thing. In terms of UConn, yeah, I made use of a lot of University of Connecticut, and then also there's a city outside of New York City called Stamford, and Stamford is good. Unfortunately, I think a lot of organizations a lot of communities across the country face this. But with COVID, everything got locked down, and it was really hard to interact with other entrepreneurs, with investors, thought leaders in the space. But yeah, the UConn ecosystem was pretty good, and I'm definitely very grateful. There are a couple of programs I had done with them. But yeah, no, I really like it here though. We're talking about UConn a lot. Let me talk a bit about Florida. I've got the
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so I mean, Florida, I'm just really optimistic on and in like every facet of the state. I just think the state's growing like crazy. I think it's really business friendly. I really like the startup ecosystem. I mean, we've seen how the Miami ecosystem has exploded. I mean, there's so many groups that are coming or opening up offices from San Francisco and New York, and then Tampa as well is also exploding. I think our area can definitely be next. So I'm very optimistic about the Panhandle. I think it's something about the sort of like not the DNA, but sort of like the experiences I've had. I like to be part of like new things. So that college I mentioned, the Olin College, was a new college. I mean, right when I got there, we had just had as many alumni as current students.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's new, right? And then obviously I'm dedicating my life and a couple of years of my life to this startup we're trying to create something new. We're creating a new company. We're trying to create a whole new type of resource. There's regular copper and regular gold, and then there's determinate materials, fully recycled, traceable, ethical. And then, at the same token, like I think that, Northwest Florida, the Panhandle, Pensacola, this area, I think that, we could become the next Tampa and Miami,
Mm-hmm.
So I just see a lot of opportunity here.
Yes.
I like the fact that this area is emerging, it's growing, and things are developing a lot. I'm very grateful to be here. I was grateful to Connecticut, and it was a tough decision, but ultimately, I think the future for myself and for determinate materials is suited well in Pensacola and in Northwest Florida.
So I understand you work with Florida West to kind of come down here. So tell me about that a little bit.
Sure. So in January of last year, of 2021, I took a trip down to Panama City Beach.
Okay.
I checked out, there's a great organization out there called Tech Farms. Steve Milloway. So I met Steve and Len Eichler.
Yes.
Spent like the day together. They've got an incubator space out there. It's really interesting what they're doing. I checked out Panama City. That was what I knew about. So as a kid, I think this is sort of cliche because everyone says this is how they find out. But as a kid, we took 2 family trips to Destin and Fort Walton. So that's what I knew about the Panhandle.
Okay, gotcha.
And so I knew about Panama City. So I checked out Panama City, and I thought it was interesting what they were doing. But a lot of people were saying, hey, why don't you go check out Pensacola? So I drove west the full length. I stopped along the way in, I think, Destin or Fort Walton, and I met the economic development people in Bay County where Panama City is. I met them in, we're testing my geography now, Santa Rosa, I think, in Okaloosa County.
Yes.
Around Fort Walton, Destin area. Great. And then I kept going to Pensacola, and I hadn't even heard of Pensacola. So I first heard of Pensacola in January of last year, like a year and 2 months ago now.
Okay.
But I got to meet Scott Luth and Danita. I want to say her last name was Andrews, with Florida EDA, Economic Development. And it was a great conversation. I explained what we're trying to do. I learned a little bit about how they see the economic development of the area. Eventually, Eventually, they connected me with Pat Rooney, who's also with Florida West and runs the Collab incubator here. And Pat has been excellent. I actually just had a meeting at Collab with him early this morning.
Good, good.
And yeah, the community here has been great. And there's just a lot of. I'm actually floored by how the population's small here. The number of startups is small here, but like the impact is great. And that was one of the reasons I chose this. If I were to go to Miami or Tampa, like would I be able to get this sort of FaceTime interaction with a lot of the community leaders and the business leaders I don't think it would be the same way. Or it would be after maybe I had to establish myself for a year. I mean, I'm getting to meet with a lot of these excellent, helpful individuals within the first month, or before I even moved down here. And so they help me. Yeah, they help me sort of see how term materials can make a home.
Yes, that's pretty fantastic. So what specifically have you been doing since you? Well, I guess when actually did you move here? I guess I'm not really sure when you actually got here.
It was about January of this year.
Okay. And so I know since we met at the March Startup Social, you've been you participate in Startup on the Block. So what in the Startup Social, what other stuff have you participated in?
Okay, so Startups on the Block, Startup Social. I think I've just been so Seville Quarter has like a networking event for young professionals. So in fact, the chamber held the event yesterday. So and some of the other individuals were there. So I've gone to that. Just a lot of also like one-on-one meetings and that sort of thing. The Student Community Institute held. They have some kind of roundtable. So I was invited to that. And I went to some of the Studer events. So yeah, there's been a couple events. I'm definitely forgetting a couple, but
and so like so tell me about your experience and some of the things you've been applying for in the application process and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we had met, and then you suggested I should apply to Emerge Americas, and I did apply to that, and they actually, up until this point, I've been, I think that's also why I click with you, Lloyd, in your stories, because up until this point, I completely bootstrapped the business. So I've had to figure out all these creative ways to, you mentioned that individual who founded the company and got, free legal assistance and things like that. That's what I've been doing. In the past, I've done a lot of this to how do I advance the business while keeping costs low, making use of all the resources that are available. And so we are looking to now ramp up and raise funding now that we've done the end to end, with the technology, with the electronics recycling, sourcing. Producing the product, that sort of thing. We're looking to build the factory and ramp up and raise venture capital financing. So you had encouraged me to apply to the Emerge Americas program, and you needed a pitch deck and that sort of thing. So I went back into the financials. I use this program called Live Plan, since there are other entrepreneurs. I think it's a pretty useful tool I found. So you can do a business plan and financial projections. So I went back and retuned the financials a little bit, and then I created the pitch deck from that in there. And the Emerge Americas, you needed to apply with a pitch deck. So I applied for that. I also applied to Y Combinator full time, and I think that application was about a month ago. That's a pretty long, intensive. Actually, both of them are actually pretty long, intensive applications. But they. Because they ask different questions, they look for different things, so it shows you the philosophy is a bit different. So
that's and I think you set a good example for applying for stuff, and you kind of learn when you apply, and it forces you to get your startup more ready. And I think I sent you an invite to the Lean Stag program. so definitely get in there, and because and go through some of those, go through those playbooks, and also the tools, and that'll help you become even more smart about dealing with the investors, and also would kind of recommend that you kind of watch some pitch competitions, just kind of see what kind of questions the investors ask about. The I was trying to think. You mentioned that you applied to Y Combinator, but Y Combinator, they have a whole in their library. They literally tell you how to apply. What questions they're going to ask, and stuff like that. So I thought that's a pretty neat thing. So the folks out in the audience, so you definitely, if you have any questions for um, so yeah, Vercel, yes, I'm not even looking at the screen yet. Vercel has a question for you.
Yeah. So in terms of partners, I'm the sole founder and the sole owner at this point. Like I said, I've bootstrapped it entirely to this point. But we do have a whole bunch of advisors on our board, and we're looking to, get more advisors and more partners in the space. Our customer, our first sole customer at this point, in terms of paying customer, she's also a great partner in the sense that she's really excited about what we're doing and wants to help us, and she's offered basically to help us expand tremendously and get sales to all the other jewelers in the space. It's a really tight knit community, and they all sort of know each other, and so almost word of mouth can get you pretty far in terms of expanding. Um,
Yes.
and then we're of course looking to expand with other partners in other parts of the supply chain, the supply side, and technology, etc. And we have a good relationship also with one of our suppliers in New York City. So yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah, I think when I look at your startup, there's so many potential partnerships you can make, or relationships you can develop, and I'm happy that you're focused on the particular customer, because I think if you can get that going, and ramp that up, you're I think that'll set a really good foundation. And then all these other materials that is in this electronics, then you can look at ways to expand your business there. But I definitely encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, and just keep trying to learn these best practices, because it's going to save you a lot of pain, and you know uh, and getting that feedback from these applications and stuff. But I think you've seen, once you do something, it leads to something else, and that leads to something else, and so
Yeah,
you
momentum.
continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's just and that's why one reason why I say apply to programs, because you actually work on your startup in these programs if you get in,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I think there's tremendous opportunity for you.
Yeah. And then even as you said earlier, even if you don't get in, just the thought process of going through it, like writing the business plan, doing the pitch deck, writing the application, in fact, to apply to Y Combinator, you have to have a 1 minute video. And just doing that, like it's almost like a soft pitch in a way, right? So you get some practice in giving that soft pitch. So every aspect of these applications, there's obviously a fine balance between, making product and, like Y Combinator would say, make product and talk to users and, get sales, right? So there's a fine
Yeah,
balance between those things and, applying to everything. But,
yeah,
a healthy mix of the two is
right.
beneficial.
And so what you have to do is you have to focus on the programs for the industry you're in. So you would, in your case, you would look at the recycling industry, you would look at the jewelry industry, and programs that do that. But the other thing is, you also have the social good program. So if you focus on those three particular um, um, areas, for who's for recycling, who's interested in that, what programs are available for that, and the jury industry. I never heard if there's jury tech thing called jury technology, but there may be something for called jury technology, and say who are the corporations that do that, and that's the approach you have to use. That's the way, because you don't want to be trying to. There's so many things out there, so you focus on the vertical that you're in,
Mm.
and get that information, those opportunities coming to you, and become well known in those verticals. And that's the programs that you want to do, because those are the programs that can help you the most, because they're going to connect you with those customers and those industry and those players, and you learn exactly what they're looking for. So, and that's my advice. And I recommend the deal is you have to make these strategic decisions, and and I hope people don't get confused that I'm telling you to just apply for any and every program. You
Yeah,
find your vertical, and focus on that. Your
definitely.
target market, as you said.
Yeah, and that's why it helps to have mentors and advisors who've done this before and can vouch for a certain program, because one thing is, like, as an entrepreneur, you've got like infinite drains on your sort of a time and attention and your energy, and you got to really figure out, okay, what's going to give me the biggest bang for the buck. What's going to be the most impactful to spend time on. So I try actually, when I'm asking, talking to people, and getting sort of advice and getting their perspective, and doing pitches, to ask them, like, what is the like one or two key things you think I should work on, like, right now. That What is the main advice, the next action step? Because it can be hard sometimes to figure out what the next step is when you're trying to do really big things, and you're trying to create something new. So that sort of targeted focus of what's the most important thing, or things, is really important.
Well, what I've heard you say, you want to get this micro factory up and running, and so evidently this micro factory, to build one, it costs a certain amount of
Yeah.
money, and and um, and so yeah, I think just that idea alone, getting started with that, you that presents a really unique opportunity, because the government, may even be interested in giving you a grant to develop one of these, prototype one of these factories or something like that. So but the good news is, when you get out there, and people know what you're doing, that's
Mhm.
when all these, people can know how they can help you. And I think that's the most important thing. So you got any news? I mean, got any recommendation for founders, as a takeaway, as we close here?
Um, yeah, I would say definitely read Zero to One by Peter Thiel. I think
Okay.
that's helpful. If I had to pick one startup sort of figure and technology figure that I think has been really impactful on me and has helped a lot, whatever, from someone as a reader and a follower, I would say it would be Peter Thiel, and yeah, the book Zero to One. The other things, like, I think with a lot of success in life and sort of trying to work that path towards success, a lot of it's just emotional, honestly. That emotional resilience. There's going to be it's a roller coaster. I mean, there's going to be up days and down days, and so it's trying to figure out how to build that emotional resilience. And I mean, this is like starting to branch out into other sorts of non-startup related areas. But like, I think being healthy in terms of that emotional resilience, eating well, exercising, getting proper sleep. There's this weird like paradigm that, like, it's in college and it's among engineers and it's among startup founders, of just like thinking that, like, like it's cool to not sleep, or it's cool to be like so-called busy all the time. Like, I don't agree with that at all. I think you have to be healthy, and you have to sleep well enough that you can actually tackle problems and be effective with them, and make the right decisions, and not trip up. And personally, I actually find it helps to some sort of spiritual outlet, meditation or something like that. Um,
Okay.
that sort of emotional resilience, having a good support system. That's the other reason why you network and get advisors and stuff, because you can share your problems and your issues, and to you it might look like it's a big end of the world type of thing, but but then you talk to some advisor and they have a different perspective. They've seen this sort of thing before, perhaps they've gone through it. So that network and that community really helps a lot. And actually, again, that's another reason I like Pensacola. Not to just keep tooting the horn, but I really like the community here. This town has become like a small city, and there's a sense of community, and that you can meet people and that sort of thing. That really helps keep that sort of emotional resilience to keep you, getting forward. I think the third thing I'd say is life is short, and this path is not for everyone. There's no instruction manual. Most of the time people aren't going to understand, what you're going through or what you're doing. But you do it because, it's something you really want to, it's a vision you have. It's something you want to manifest, right? So I would say, don't do a startup if you don't really care a lot about what you're trying to do. You should care a lot about what you're trying to do, because you're going to go through fire in a way in order to kind of create this. But it'll be worth it in the end, because you'll have been working on something that you really care about, and you'll be spending your life doing something that matters. So, find something that matters a lot to you, and then go after that.
Yeah, because you can be passionate about it. Man, I think those are three, great points, and we really appreciate you sharing. And I see Cameron out there on Facebook. I'll show his. Yeah, he said right on, correct. Yeah, and I'll give a shout out to Cameron and his co-founders. They're two young guys out there, and man, I really enjoyed the conversation with them a month or so, not even, I guess maybe a month ago. I met them down at in Tampa, to the Synapse conference, and and they're out there hustling. They're not making excuses, and so I really appreciate the drive and the passion, that you're sharing and they're sharing as well. All righty, so we're gonna go ahead and sign off, I guess. I apologize. I've been trying to clear my throat. I don't know what's going on here, but anyway, we're glad to have you here in the Northwest Florida, Pensacola area. And I think you're setting a good example for taking advantage of resources and just continue to do that. And you've been networking, and I think you're making the connections to kind of move forward. And I would definitely encourage other founders here to kind of, follow your lead on this networking, because I think it's really been paying off for you so far, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I actually want to thank you, Lloyd. I mean, we just met, and I feel like you've become a great mentor already in such a short period of time. You've been really gracious. So thank you so much, Lloyd.
It's my pleasure to, help and everything. So, all right. So that's a wrap on another event, and we'll see you all next week. And thanks for listening, everyone, and good luck with your startup.
Lloyd, if I could say one more thing.
Go right ahead.
If anyone wants to get a hold of me, you can, search my name, Nikhil Gupta, or search Determinate Materials. You can find my LinkedIn. Also, again, the website, Lloyd had it earlier, was www.determinatematerials.com. There's a contact page there. You can also email me at nikhil@determinatematerials.com. So there's a couple of ways, and I'd be happy to talk further.
Sure, and we'll include your contact information in the email when we send it out as well. But yeah, thanks a lot. See everybody next week. Y'all take care. Thanks. All right.
Thanks.